Squid Game is over. But while we speak, Netflix is preparing the big sequel to the franchise, and this one will take place in the United States. And what will we see in this series? A director and actors? Are they already confirmed? These are the questions we're going to answer. Today on Squidflix, I'm going to tell you everything we know about Squid Game United States. Ready? Let's begin. Season 3 of Squid Game surprised us all with an incredible ending. The Squid Game island in Korea was destroyed. So the games are over. The frontman goes to the United States to visit Gi-hun's daughter. However, along the way, a recruiter woman appears, playing Dokji with a homeless person. This means the games continue in other countries. That scene introduces us to the sequel, which will take place in the US. Let's start with a serious question. Is the US spin-off confirmed? The truth is, there is no official confirmation from Netflix yet. However, it's very likely that this series will happen. Since last year, rumors were going around about a sequel in the US, but there was no proof. Now, with this final scene, everything makes sense. Coincidences don't exist. Now I'll tell you everything we know so far. This information has been circulating on the internet for months and is supported by well-known sites like What's on Netflix, which often leaks lots of info. For now, this series will be called Squid Game America, and it will not be a remake. That means we won't see another version of Gi-hun with an American actor. This series will be a continuation, respecting the events of the original show. And that's good because I would hate to see the same story redone with a different cast. It could never match the original. The best thing is a sequel. Who will be the director? For now, the sources say that David Fincher has been chosen. He's a legendary film director. He made masterpieces like Fight Club and Seven. Currently, this director has an exclusive contract with Netflix, which allowed him to direct series like Mindhunter or the animated show Love, Death Plus Robots. In that context, it makes sense that Fincher would be the director. And what about Hwang Dong-hyuk? The original director of the franchise will probably not return. He himself said in interviews that finishing season 3 cost him a lot. It was extremely stressful for him, and he even lost several teeth during the process. Remember, the director didn't even want to do a season 2. The original idea was for only one season, but Netflix saw the franchise's potential. That's why they asked him to do 3 seasons. Right now, the director wants to rest from Squid Game. If the franchise continues, it will be with another director. Of course, it wouldn't be strange if he returns as a consultant or producer. Let's talk about the cast. Which actors will we see in Squid Game America? First of all, we can mention Cate Blanchett, who appeared at the end of season 3 as the American recruiter. That would be the most obvious addition. She starred in films like The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and even in blockbusters like Thor, Ragnarok, where she played the villain Hela. She would fit perfectly in a Squid Game sequel as a different version of Gong-yu, the original recruiter. Fans received her very well at the end of the season. So it's all up to Netflix. As for the rest of the cast, most will probably be North American. Netflix has a catalog of actors it uses constantly. If they make an American version, they'll surely use familiar faces. For example, actresses like Jenna Ortega or Emma Myers, who are booming and have starred in multiple Netflix productions. By the time this sequel is released, they'll be a bit older and would fit perfectly. Other big names are also being considered. For example, Robert De Niro could play a VIP. It's not impossible. De Niro already worked with Netflix on the film The Irishman, which was excellent. Personally, I'd love to see Will Poulter, who acted in Black Mirror. Another excellent option would be Jesse Plemons, known for Breaking Bad. He's also a frequent Netflix actor. However, not everyone will be American. It's very likely we'll see some Korean stars return. For example, actor Lee Byung-hun, who plays the frontman. The ending clearly showed us that his character remains vigilant. Also, the frontman was moved by Gi-hun's sacrifice. So he'll probably do something to carry on his legacy. Actor Lee Byung-hun said in several interviews that he wants to continue in the franchise. He even said he'd love to be the main character of a prequel, focused on how the frontman won the 2015 games. Certainly, because of this willingness, The director kept his character alive at the end of the season. Many claim he will be the protagonist of the US version, but I imagine him more as a supporting character for the new lead. Another character who might return is Gi-hun's daughter. I've read comments suggesting she could come back as a player to look for clues about what happened to her father. But honestly, I don't buy that theory. She's too young to participate in the game. Even if she grows up fast, it would make no sense for her to play. She's literally a millionaire thanks to Gi-hun's fortune. It would be sad to see her go through the same suffering. To me, the only way she could return is as a journalist or something like that, investigating the Squid Game organization. She could want to know what happened to her father. She would then have a role similar to the police officer in the original series, someone outside the game. That way, she could also easily reconnect with the frontman to get answers. Another character who might return is the policeman. He survived in the series, but he never really had a conversation with his brother. Maybe the director saved that for Netflix to use in the future. So we might see him again, looking for answers. I've read crazy theories about Gi-hun possibly returning to the games. But that's impossible. There's no way he survived. Also, the director himself said Gi-hun's story is over. Actor Lee Young-jae also said finishing Season 3 was a huge challenge. Clearly, everyone agrees it's time for Gi-hun to rest. Now on to another question. What games will we see in the next series? Of course, they can't all be Korean games, because American players wouldn't understand them. For example, the sugar cookie game would be hard for them to grasp. Another example is the dokji game used at the end of the season. But to be honest, few people outside Korea even knew about it before the series. It was included just because it got really popular. But it makes no sense to use it in the US. Most new games should be based on North American culture. For example, a classic is Duck Duck Goose. That game involves players forming a circle while one walks around and picks someone. Then a chase begins between the two. This game could easily be adapted into a deadly version. Another interesting game could be the sack race. It's extremely common and has been seen in many Hollywood family movies. It could easily be turned into a deadly version, and it would be interesting to watch. There are also other games that are played both in the US and Korea. For example, jump rope. This game could come back without any issue. There's also tug of war, which we saw in Season 1 and became very popular worldwide. It could easily return in the new series, and all players would understand it. There are even Korean games that I'm sure will return. For example, the original doll game. It's way too iconic in the franchise. Also, it's a game that everyone can understand instantly without being Korean. In general, I think there are Korean elements that must return to preserve the series' identity. That's the charm of the franchise. It lies in its Korean identity. The Young-hee doll is a perfect example. The series will take place in the US, but they can't ignore the Korean essence of the franchise. That's what worked from the beginning. Either way, the Squid Game sequel is on the way. I'm excited for it, and I'll keep you informed about any news. That's all for today. If you liked the video, it would help me a lot if you left a like. That would be legendary. Also, don't forget to subscribe to see more videos like this. Thank you for listening to me.